Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is KSolo, host of Rider with KSolo, the podcast. I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, down here in the historic district, right now with Mr. Dennis Joyner. And Mr. Dennis Joyner, can you tell us where we're headed?
First of all, let me tell you, we are in what's called Jackson Ward. It's otherwise known as the Harlem of the South. So right now we are on 2nd Street. First stop is going to be the Maggie Walker National Historic Site, which is right around the corner. So we're going to go talk a little bit about her as we stand in front of her old residence.
All right, so here we go, folks. Follow along. So this area right here is known as the Jackson Ward.
Yeah, this whole area is called Jackson Ward.
Okay.
Back in the day, in the early 1900s, this used to be the hub of black culture and black entertainment. So folks like Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, they all came here to perform on what they used to call the Chitlin Circuit.
Okay.
And
okay.
2nd Street or the Deuce or 2nd Street was kind of the central place. They had speakeasies, restaurants, and things like that. So when they would come to entertain, this is where, you know, all the entertainers would actually come and gather, and this is, again, is a very historic place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the Maggie L. Walker National Historic Site. It's recognized by the National Park Service, so as the United States Department of Interior. So of course this is recognized. This building, this area would not be destroyed or torn down,
exactly,
or anything like that, because it's on the National Register of Historic Sites.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
So as we walk up to Maggie Walker's house, this whole row is what's called Linden Row. So way back in the day, the folks who were of African Americans, at least, who were pretty much well-to-do, lawyers, bankers, or whatever, they lived on this particular street, and Maggie L. Walker was one of the residents on this street. So we'll walk up to where her house is, and just to give you a little, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just to give you a little bit of background, Maggie L. Walker was the first woman to charter and be the president of a bank in the United States. Very groundbreaking back in the day. So that's something of noteworthy.
Yes, indeed it
Absolutely.
is. Yeah, Ms. Walker made a major impact in the Black Richmond community.
Absolutely.
So this is also recognized as Quality Row.
Exactly.
So
yes,
during the
1920s,
during the 1920s, this block of East Lee Street was known as Quality Row. Upper middle class African American families lived in these homes. Their neighborhood, Jackson Ward, became the most enterprising African American business district in the nation, and its leaders flourished in these surroundings. That is outstanding.
So here we have the home of Maggie L. Walker. As you can see, it is a very large home, one of the few homes back in the day that actually had a working elevator.
Okay.
So Maggie L. Walker was a very well-to-do person. As we mentioned, she chartered and was the president of the bank, which was called the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank, and it was created to help African Americans save money and to be able to live a prosperous lifestyle. So it was her idea to start the bank, which she did, and the bank is probably, the original bank is a couple of blocks from here.
And she was known as the Queen of Quality Row.
Yes, she was. She was actually the child of formerly enslaved folks, but she made a very large impact in this area and in the country as a whole. And again, because this is a National Historic Site, you can come here. They're not open today, but on any given day, you can come in, you can do a tour of the house. It's 3 stories. Again, had an elevator, had a lot of the original furniture that was in the house is still here now.
Okay.
And I believe her granddaughter sometimes makes an appearance here every once in a while. But as you can see, it is A very beautiful home.
It is. It's still a beautiful home.
Yes, absolutely. And this home was actually built by, and I forgot the gentleman's name, he was a black architect who actually designed most of the houses on Quality Row, as well as designing the St. Luke building, which is where she was the secretary of.
So this block here is pretty much just restored or preserved as it was in time during that era.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. You can tell by the architect, the decor of the homes, the surroundings, the porches, the pillars, even the trimming up top, the crown, the upper trimmings is still preserved, and the colors too. That green color is of that time and era, and the green and beige.
Yeah.
Yes.
And an interesting fact, you mentioned about the wrought iron work on the homes here. So this area, Jackson Ward, is supposedly has the most amount of ironwork of any other neighborhood other than New Orleans.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of intricate designs here, and like I said, all brick homes.
And that's what it reminds you of, that New Orleans, Bourbon Street kind of atmosphere.
Kind of row houses.
Exactly, row house. You kind of see maybe people in the attire at that time walking during these streets, and the big hats. The women wore the big hats. Definitely. Now there's some other sites around here as well.
Absolutely. So again, we're in Jackson Ward, which again is the, or at least was the kind of the African American cultural hub in the city. And on 2nd Street or 2nd Street, you could find black-owned restaurants, speakeasies, clubs or whatever. Back in the day, where if you wanted to go somewhere to have some entertainment,
right,
in the Richmond area, this is the place where you would actually
go.
Okay. So this is the former site of the A.D. Price Funeral Home. A.D. Price was an African American, funeral home director. He actually was one of, if not the first, funeral directors to get an embalming license in the state of Virginia. And as a kid there, we used to come to his funeral home, I think Easter Sunday, and used to give out Easter candy to all the kids in the neighborhood. So this place has some nice significance and memories for me growing up in this particular area.
Yes, and it is also in the Negro Motorist Green Book. A guide for the African American travels was published in New York City mail carrier Victor Hugo Green. That's outstanding.
Yeah, it's probably a few places if you were an African American and you
safe place,
Yeah, actually, or you just you died or whatever. Then this is a place where you could have funeral services done in or for your family members or whatever. So this is a very historic place. Again, here in Jackson Ward.
Okay.
And also on this corner, we have the Eggleston Hotel. So as I mentioned earlier, back in the day when entertainers would come to the Richmond, Virginia area in the Jackson Ward, they would perform on this particular street, and they would stay in this hotel. Now, the original Eggleston Hotel has been demolished. It was condemned, and they've rebuilt this structure, which is actually apartments now, but it still bears the name of the Eggleston and Miller Hotel. Again, this was, if you were African American, you came to 2nd Street, you were performing, 99% of the time, this is the restaurant, this is the hotel where you would stay. So a very historic building, a very historic site in and of itself.
Okay. Very nice.
And as we walk a little further, we're not going to go too much further, but
all right. Well, this is your city, sir. So this is your city.
So again,
right now, you are the mayor.
I am the mayor. Okay. So again, this is 2nd Street. So the Hippodrome Theater was also another place where entertainers, when they would come to Jackson Ward, where they would perform. When I was a kid, that was a movie theater, but originally it was a place where entertainers, again, the Callaways and Nat King Coles of the world, when they would come to Richmond to perform, that was kind of the highlight of where you could perform.
The hot spot where it was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is a very historic building. It's been there since the early 1900s. and it is now it still is a theater, and then there's a speakeasy cafe right next to it. That also is a part of this theater originally, but now it is a speakeasy cafe where you go and get something to eat.
Okay. I'm gonna have to visit at my next trip up here.
So as we walk further down 2nd Street, there's a sign here, Jackson Ward Historical Marker, that talks about the significance of this neighborhood, how it was formed, when it was formed. It was formed right after the Civil War with formerly enslaved and free African Americans. They moved into this area, to have their life and to prosper and all those wonderful things. And it also talks about the Excellent Hotel that we just mentioned.
Yes.
It also talks about John Mitchell, who was known as the, what was he known as? The fighting editor.
Okay.
So way back in the day, in the late 1800s, there were 13 African Americans who started the newspaper, which was called The Planet. It was a newspaper, probably one of the first, African American newspapers in the country. And John Mitchell was one of the editors of that newspaper, and the newspaper was dedicated to talking about the cruelties of slavery and Reconstruction and things like that. So that was like I said, one of the first African American newspapers in the country, and it actually was run on this particular street.
Okay.
Yes.
A lot of history.
Absolutely.
Hey, folks, we're taking a tour of Jackson Ward with Mr. Dennis Joyner. I call him my African American history historian. He keeps me on the go. He's always finding these locations, and I'm trying to track him down. I'll find a few locations. He'll try to track me down. But folks, he's giving us an interesting tour of Jackson Ward down here in Richmond, Virginia. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What do we have here? Yeah, we are still in historic Jackson Ward. There's a couple of historic places in this particular area. The one that we're standing in front of right now is a statue of Bill Bojangles Robinson, a native of Richmond and a native of this neighborhood. He's like an internationally known actor and dancer. Those of us who are old enough to remember, back in the day, he did films with Shirley Temple. He was a tap dancer. And he was born in this community. And the reason that this particular statue is on this particular corner is because back in the early 1900s, Bill Bojangles Robinson took his own money to put a traffic light on this corner so that the children could cross through this intersection safely. So not only was he an entertainer and an actor, he was a great humanitarian who was very concerned about his people. So this is the statue of that fine young gentleman. And again, as we were on 2nd Street, we talked about entertainers that would come to stay in the Excellent Hotel and stay in this particular area. Bill Bojangles Robinson was one of those individuals. And again, he was born in Jackson.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I think donated in 1973.
Yes.
Outstanding. From this community and fans from around the world.
All right. Well, okay. So we're gonna ready to head on to our next stop. Where we can take this to next?
So our next stop is going to be the Black History Museum of Virginia. Now the building that it used to be in was called the Lee Street Armory. It was one of, I think, maybe 3 armories in the United States that were for the black militia, which is right down the street. So we'll take a walk down there and take a look at that.
Okay. Oh yeah.
We're standing here in front of the Black History Museum of Virginia. It used to be the Lee Street Armory. It was the armory, like I said again, one of the 3 armories for black militia in the United States. You can see from the architecture, it is a very old building, a lot of history in this building. And actually, I went to this Benjamin A. Graves Junior High School back in the day. And when I was going to that junior high school, this building has seen a lot of different.
So you've been in this building.
Yeah. Before it became the Black History Museum of Virginia. Yeah, I went to that junior high school, but again, now it is the Black History Museum of Virginia, where it has a lot of the history. We talk about Jacksonville, Richmond, a lot of that history is on display in the museum. Yeah.
Hey folks, there's so much history up here in Richmond, Virginia. You should come up here, take a tour, ride up here, and park your bike somewhere and just get off and beat feet and take some of this in.
Absolutely. There's a lot of beautiful murals around town, so it is.
The shrine hall over there has a beautiful, and it also has a picture of the first African American fire station in town.
Exactly, which was
in Richmond.
Actually, in Richmond, yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of first, there's a marker on the corner down there that talks about the first African American police officers that were hired in the city of Richmond. There's a marker right there.
Oh, okay.
And the first precinct used to be there, and they were members of the first precinct.
Okay.
So again, it's a lot of history here, a lot of first or what have you. But we are now standing in front of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, one of the oldest churches in the country, definitely one of the oldest churches in Richmond. And Ebenezer Baptist Church holds the distinction of being the church that actually started the very first kindergarten in the city of Richmond. A lot of folks don't realize that the Richmond public school system really got its start in the basement of this particular church. So it is a very historic church. As you can see from the marker, it talks about the Harlem Memorial Baptist College, which was one of the first colleges for African American women that was also started in this church. So this church, not only being a religious institution, it actually founded a lot of educational institutions and programs in the city of Richmond, especially for people of color.
Nice.
So as we finish up our historic tour of Richmond, Virginia, we find ourselves down here on Browns Island, and we're about to check out the Emancipation statue, which I find it somewhat interesting that Emancipation statue, as we walk towards it, depicts a formerly enslaved person with the Emancipation Proclamation in their hand. And that statue is literally less than a mile from the slave trail, which is where a lot of the enslaved sort of came to Richmond, and also less than a stone's throw from the Tredegar Iron Works, which was one of the major Confederate cannon building and artillery building facilities. So I just think it's rather ironic and
Yes.
fitting as well that this emancipation statue would be located here.
Yes. Yes. So we're going to head on over to Browns Island. So Browns Island, how did it get the name Browns Island?
You know, that is a very interesting question. I am not sure how it actually got its name.
Right.
I would like to think that it got its name from Henry Box Brown, but I know that is not the case. For those of you all who may not be familiar with that story, but there was an enslaved person, Henry Brown, and he wanted to procure his freedom so much that he actually, with the help of some other folks, actually mailed himself or packaged himself in a box and shipped himself to the other side. I think it was Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, so that he could actually
ship himself to freedom.
Yeah, he was in. Of course, back then, it was horse and carriage and barges. So he was basically in that box for probably a week or so.
Yeah.
Had a little air holes in it, and I mean that's a testament as to how far people will go
for their freedom.
freedom.
Yes, indeed.
It's a testament of that spirit that we have.
Right.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, it's a young lady holding the Emancipation Proclamation.
And then you come around to this monument, which is incredible.
Yeah, it definitely is a powerful message.
Folks, and if you have not been down to Browns Island in Richmond, Virginia, I highly encourage you to come down. Reach out to people such as Mr. Joyner and say, hey, sir, could you give me one of those tours? I'm sure he would love to just kind of share his knowledge and of his history, of his city, where he grew up, the places that he's experienced, all of it. He's a historian. He's an encyclopedia for us. So the thing is, folks, is in this motorcycle culture of ours, this is just one avenue that you could take to sit and say, this is why I ride a motorcycle. To get out and to see things like this, to visit places like this, and feel the impact and the power that it has. Because it does symbolizes me as an African-American, Mr. Joyner as an African-American, what we went through to get our freedom. So without a doubt, folks, this is just another avenue that you can use your motorcycle to sit there and say, I'll travel the country.
Yep. Another reason to get out and ride.
That's right. And then also there's another statue over here, and I just did a post on social media.
Oh, the boatman.
The boatman, that's right. So we're going to walk over here right quick, folks, while we're here to the boatman.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, they sailed us to our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I was down in North Carolina, and I visited one of the sites down there, and they were talking about the boatmen and how slaves would come and the boatman would guide them through the night to down the passageway on the river.
That is a very good point.
So this is just another monument to the testament of what we went through for our freedom. This monument is actually named the Headman. Yeah.
Like you're saying, there's a lot of history, not just in this city, but all over the country.
All over the country.
It just happens to be a fair amount of it in the town where I grew up in my backyard. And if you want to get out and, as KSolo said, if you have some questions about anything in this area or what have you, feel free to reach out to me and other folks who do the exact same thing. And we'll be more than happy to give you some information on that.
Yeah, facilitate, maybe even give you a tour. Well, hey, so we're going to go ahead and head down south. We're going to head down to Petersburg, Virginia, which is probably about 20 miles down, maybe 20 miles down from Richmond. And where we're going to visit?
We're going to visit Pocahontas Island.
Pocahontas Island.
One of the, well, supposedly it is the oldest Black community in the United States. Now, of course, there are different places who will claim that as well, but it definitely is the oldest African-American community in Petersburg and in this area.
Yes,
yes. And it is a very interesting place. Yeah, they did a documentary on that a year or so ago.
Yes, they did. So tune in, folks. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we are here at Pocahontas sign right here, commemorative sign, as Pocahontas, oldest Black community in the United States. And this is actually a community center.
This is a community center?
Yeah, this is a community center right here for the people who still live on the island. It looks like it's been kind of abandoned, but you know, at one point in time, they did have their own standing community center here, which is pretty good. That's an organization. That's a sign of being organized.
Yeah, trying to keep the community thriving.
Exactly. Informed. I was pretty sure they had education programs in there, things like that provided for their own little island. Yeah, self-sufficient. I think I've seen a couple of people had gardens here. So, you know, you count on the island, you kind of cut off from everybody else. You got
to take care of yourself.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned it's a very interesting color choices they made.
Yeah.
The house is nice and bright.
Yeah.
Festive.
Right. fact, that is the colors of the African flag there.
There you go.
There you go.
Red, I see green.
That's right. All right, we're gonna move around to our next stop on Pocahontas Island. So, stay tuned. All right, so this is the Jarrett House, one of the last standing brick buildings on the island. Yeah, yeah.
That is sturdy.
So this is the Jarrett House, built 1820, built by John Joyner, Chesterfield Company, owned by Jarrett family. It's hard to read this. But 1879. So
Very
we'll
old
do
building.
do a little homework and try to find out a little bit more history about it.
About this building.
Yeah. Well, if you build it right, folks, it'll last forever.
It will stay. It will last.
Stay. It won't last forever, but it will stay. All right, so we're gonna do a little homework and maybe we'll be able to narrate that portion during the live.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
So worked our way to the Pocahontas Chapel, original site 1866. Just a little history about the chapel. Pocahontas Chapel, established 1800, served as black school until 1871 and Grant's headquarters during the Civil War. So General Grant used this chapel, or Pocahontas Island, as his headquarters during the Civil War. Now, with that, we know during the Civil War there was a lot going on, different battlegrounds. I know over in Hopewell, there's a site over there, a couple of headquarters. I know Lincoln visited over there. During that era, the waterways was a ways that people would go up and down traveling from different battle sites. So when you come up to Richmond and Petersburg, the Virginia area, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of battlegrounds in the area, and to find out that Pocahontas Island was actually included in that as part of a battlefield, a headquarters station. And of course, with a headquarters, you know, there's camps, there's hospitals, there's mess, and all that involved. So during that era, it served. You know, this island served.
Yeah. You dropped some knowledge on me for sure. I didn't realize all of that, but you're exactly right. Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm here with the man, the mayor.
Hey, we can always learn something. That's
right.
For sure.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Every day we're learning. So we're gonna walk down to where the old museum used to be. It's no longer there. Once the gentleman passed away, I think they went away with it. Am I correct?
Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed a couple of years ago. He was known as the mayor of Pocahontas Island.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Yeah. So now you've been over here. Did you just come just for one visit, or have you did any research? Or have you been back?
I've been here a couple of times, but I guess the time that I really started paying attention to the history of it, they did a documentary and they showed it at the Richmond Public Library that went into the history of Pocahontas Island, and that really kind of stirred my interest and made me want to come back. And I actually got a chance to talk to Mr. Stewart when I was here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he was one of the early residents here, and had a lot of stories to tell. So I've been here a couple of times, but like I said, after watching the documentary, I wanted to come back and do some more research and get some more historical facts on the island.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very interesting place.
Yes, and it's almost like it stopped in time because you really don't see any new construction in the area. And that makes
Exactly.
me wonder, is it the families not wanting to build, or, have they stopped building, saying no more building can be done on the island? There's a lot of history here to kind of say, well, this lot here is open. It's power, it's water,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very close to
to
Petersburg, so you
Petersburg
would
and
think, yeah.
Colonial Heights.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Petersburg is an area that people are moving to, so you would think, yeah, that's an interesting point,
right.
that people are not,
Not
building new
here.
houses. Yeah,
That's a nice lot right there, piece of
a
land.
couple of different lots. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a park. The Pocahontas Park is right back here where people park and can sit there and events.
Yeah, like I said, you would think that people would want to move in an area like this because you don't have a lot of thoroughfare. You're kind of in your own little, kind of private area here.
Right. So because this is private property, there's a sign that says private property. We're not going to cross over. We're going to stay here. But this used to be the site of the Pocahontas Museum.
It actually was, yes. And he collected a lot of artifacts from the area, and people donated things to the museum. And he was very proud of the museum. He would definitely welcome you in, and we did get a chance to look through the museum, which was, I believe, it used to be his actual residence at one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he felt that strongly about, the history of Pocahontas Island that he took it upon himself to create his own museum.
His own museum.
I think he was a ex-military person, so he took his pension and other sources of income donations and actually created the museum. And again, it was sad that he passed a couple of years ago, but he lived a very fulfilling life and tried to preserve the history of Pocahontas Island. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, we've thoroughly enjoyed you tagging along with us today. I've been with the mayor of Richmond, Pocahontas Island. And thank you, Mr. Dennis Joyner. I look forward to our episode where we're going to conclude with Black History Month. And we're going to talk about some of our other tours, other rides that we've done across the nation.
Yes.
And we're going to dive into it, folks. And hopefully you tune in. We greatly appreciate you. So, sir, if you would, just let people know, tune in to your episode that's coming up.
Yes, the episode is going to be Tuesday. I believe it is February 25th. We're going to talk about, kind of culminate Black History Month with some interesting facts about the places we visited today and some other African-American sites that KSolo and myself have both visited. So stay tuned, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Pacific. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be truly an educational experience.
That's what I'm talking about.
I grew up 4 blocks that way.
Okay.
Yeah, on the other side of 95 before they left 95 kind of destroyed the
That's exactly what they did.
We travel in a lot of our community.